Hey, it's Thursday, May 7th, 2020, and you are tuned in to the Rebel News live stream. Now, as you know, folks, those of you who tune in at this time, normally it is the big boss man himself, Ezra Levent, doing the next hour online, but every Tuesday and Thursday, as Ezra finishes up a very important project, Sheila Gunn-Reid, who shares the screen with me and myself, will be your guest co-host. And Sheila, this is the part where you explain all the nitty-gritty details of what it is we're trying to accomplish here.
Right. Well, actually, what we're trying to accomplish here is we're trying to keep the ball rolling because apparently we're doing a better job than the boss at this, and I'll get to that in a second. What we're doing is we are interacting with each other, which is great because I work remotely, you work in the office, so we don't get to talk to each other face to face very often. So this is as close as we get. It also gives our viewers a chance to interact with each other in the live chat. And there's always a very lively and spirited conversation happening in there. But also it allows our viewers to willingly support us with their own money as opposed to money extracted from their pockets and given to the CBC. You can do something called a super chat, and we get the majority of that money. YouTube, of course, takes their cut, which is just, I suppose, the cost of doing business. You can throw some money in the super chat. If you look at the bottom of the live chat, there's like a little dollar sign. You just click on that and go from there. And it'll highlight your comment or question to us. And I'll see it, or our producer in studio will see it and then send it to me. And David and I will read it or react to it. And some people are putting some pretty cheeky things in there because I think they like to see me read cheeky things. But we do a better job than Ezra at this. And he admitted it yesterday in his live stream. He said that David and I consistently get more super chats than him. And I think it is because maybe like people appreciate the back and forth, maybe like I talk, then David talks, and we both react to something. So maybe they're getting like double the value for their super chat. But I'd like to encourage people to keep that going for us because it sure makes David and I look good to the boss when we do a good job on these live streams.
Yeah, maybe there's something in the rapport, Sheila. I mean, the way I look at our relationship, it is the mirror image of the couple in Green Acres, Eddie Albert and Eva Gabor. I'm the city guy. Yeah. She was the city gal. Manhattan is where she'd rather be. And instead of you being the lawyer who longs for the country life, you are the country girl. So I don't know, maybe there's some kind of dynamic. And, folks, earlier before we went on air, Sheila was fretting about what backdrop on the farm she was going to use. Is going to be the duck pond or the pig pen, and it got me thinking of that. I mean, I loved Green Acres. It was one of my favorite sitcoms of all time. Do you, like with your phone, Sheila, do you have to do what Eddie Albert used to do? Like he had to climb a telephone pole because they didn't have enough cord to bring the phone into the farmhouse. Is that what it's like on the Gunn-Reid farm?
You have no idea how little society has progressed outside of the big city when it comes to phone reception. I don't have landlines into my log house. We just don't have them. They don't exist. And so when I see my phone ringing, like my cell phone ringing, it's right on my desk right here right now. When I see it ringing, it's a mad dash to like one of 3 spots on the farm where I get reception. So I always answer the phone extremely out of breath. Like if Ezra's ringing me, I run because he's my boss and he doesn't call unless it's important. Well, that's not true. He calls if it's important to him because sometimes he just has a funny thing that he wants to show me or to remind me that he sent me an animal video that he'd like me to watch. But yeah, I have to run to like the high point on the farm and there's like 3 of them and that's the only place to get reception.
Well, I tremble with fear whenever I get a phone call from Ezra, because it's usually something bad. So, but I have to answer that phone. And I'll tell you, maybe a little later, if our trained broadcast professional can find that. I know Green Acres dates back to the 60s. But the other thing I loved about Green Acres, Sheila, is that in the history of TV, it is the ultimate theme song for the opening credits
Yeah.
because it tells the entire story. And you know what? Have you noticed with TV shows today? The TV opening theme song, it's gone the way of the dinosaur, hasn't it? Right? But when I think of the great ones, like I said, Green Acres, Get Smart, The Prisoner. There was one of the best openings ever, even though the show only lasted 17 episodes. But today, it just starts. I don't know. Are they trying to cram in an extra minute and a half of commercial time or something? Because I used to always love how you'd tune into, like, if you're tuning into the Gilligan's Island for the first time, you knew in the first minute what the premise of that show was. But anyways, if you don't know what I'm talking about with Green Acres, folks, the young uns out there, because I'm sure anyone who is of the age of Sheila or I knows what I'm talking about. But speaking of Green Acres...
Whoa, you're another generation than me.
I thought I could sneak
Pump
that
the brakes,
in.
Grandpa.
Speaking of Green Acres, folks, I live in the megacity of Hogtown, Toronto, and, believe it or not, we do have green spaces. Probably the closest thing to New York City Central Park is Hyde Park. It's a sprawling park in the heart of the city. It's got its own zoo. It's got a pond that every once in a while somebody dumps an alligator in and they got to pull a 5-alarm fire drill. But you won't believe this one. The mayor of Toronto, John Tory, who allegedly is a conservative, I'll let you debate that, but he certainly leads a progressive city hall, and they don't trust the citizens of this city to go to Hyde Park in May, because you see, folks, in May, the cherry blossom trees are blooming, and it's a beautiful sight, and even better, it's an olfactory sensory experience. So what the mayor has done is he's ordered all his king's men and all his king's horses to actually erect a wall and a fence around the entire perimeter of Hyde Park. Oh, and that's not all, because you think with, gangbangers, I think our homicide rate is at 25 right now in Toronto. You think the cops would have better things to do. The cops are patrolling the wall of Hyde Park along with bylaw officers, and if you dare breach that wall, well, guess what? You're getting that $880 coronavirus safety precaution ticket. I'm wondering if I think we do have a little clip. We went out there yesterday, our ace camera people, Mocha and Efren, they accompanied me, and we decided to try to enact a little social justice at the walled-off Hyde Park. Let's channel Ronald Reagan circa 1987 and put up our posters asking John Tory, Mr. Mayor, tear down this wall. Hey, how are you, sir? How you doing? Can you believe how your rights are being violated today? I didn't hear that. What were you saying, sir? Hello? Oh, are you social distancing now? Okay, then. Be safe.
Put up that sign, sir?
Pardon me?
You put up this sign?
We did, yes,
Okay,
sir.
yeah, you just
It
have to
says,
take it down.
Mr. Mayor, tear down this wall, like Ronald Reagan said back in 1987 in East Bird Lane. Isn't that beautiful? We're standing up for our freedom, officer.
I'm just going to have to take down the sign, okay?
Oh, don't you believe in freedom of speech, freedom of expression?
I'm just going to pull out a knife and just take down the sign, sir.
Oh, pull out a knife.
You have a pair of scissors or anything to cut the...
I don't know.
Okay, if you can just step back, sir. I don't want...
Power to the people.
don't want you to-
You don't want to stab me. Okay, then. Officer, your colleagues couldn't tell me what law is closing the King's Highway to taxpayers. Can you tell me that? I also showed them a photograph of Mayor John Tory posing with 10 healthcare workers. That's over $9,000 in COVID-19.
Sir, here you go.
Okay. Oh, you give them back to me? Okay, then. Can I show you this evidence, sir? Why is Mayor John Tory not being charged with the social distancing laws?
In our space, okay?
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's what you're going to have to I don't know where that incident was, sir.
It was on University Avenue 2 Sundays ago, sir.
Yeah, I wasn't there, so I can't speak to it.
Okay. So in City of Toronto, it's one law for me, another law for thee. Is that the idea? I mean, Mayor Tory is violating the social distancing laws here, sir. We can't even go into the park and smell the tulips.
Which social distancing law is he violating?
Right now?
No, in regards to what do you?
Do you want to take the photo, sir? You can see he's cheek to jowl with 10 healthcare workers. You got to take a phone call. Okay, then. Well, I've been put on call hold or something like that. Anyways, well, I guess there you have it. I mean, I guess under this COVID-19, there must be a section, I'm not aware of it, that prevents freedom of expression, freedom of the press. I know they've closed the park. I've yet to see the law that's allowing them to do that, to shut down the King's Highway to taxpayers. But it looks like we can't even put up our message either. So High Park is off limits. You know what we're going to do, folks? We're going to go to some other parks like Trinity Bellwoods. If you can believe the mentality of this mayor, not only is High Park shut down, but any park where there are cherry blossom trees, he has built a temporary fence around that, including Trinity Bellwoods. Just wait you see that. We'll have to go down the road, and the proof will be in the pudding. Mayor John Tory, if you seek peace and prosperity and nasal satisfaction for those living in the People's Democratic Republic of the Greater Toronto Area, then come here to this gate. Mr. Tory, open this gate! Mr. Tory! Mr. Tory! Tear down this wall! I don't know where to begin, Sheila. So I'll throw it over to you for some analysis as somebody that actually lives in the country where there are no fences.
Yeah, you know what? I keep thinking, like, if somebody fenced off our trees in Alberta with just a crappy little, wire gating thing, where are your men with pickup trucks? Because I'm pretty sure if that happened in Alberta, we'd have some good old boys head down there and just hook up to it with a pickup truck and give it a quick yank and set the trees free. But everybody seems pretty compliant. Like, they're like, oh, the government put up a fence to keep us away from smelling the trees. And they're like, okay, well, the trees, it's got to be dangerous, so we're just going to comply. I just don't know where the rebellious spirit is in Toronto. You've got it. And can I say something here? Editing team in Toronto, I hope you're listening. That video was so well edited and so well done. It is inspiring to watch. It's funny, but it's also, like, who knew cherry trees were like the new battleground for freedom? But here we are.
And, Sheila, the way I look at it, there's 2 points here. The leftists, the progressives, the Marxists even on council, because there's actually, one member of council, Paula Fletcher, used to be the president of the Manitoba Communist Party. She gets reelected every election. Unbelievable. Yeah. But these are the people, Sheila, aren't they anti-fence, anti-wall? Like when a sovereign nation wants to put up a wall to protect itself from being invaded by illegal aliens. Oh no, that's bad. How dare you do that? But when it comes to tax-paying citizens that just want to stroll into a park and sniff the cherry blossoms, walls and fences and armed police, that's a good thing suddenly. And the second thing is, Sheila, I pointed out in the video the double standard, the fact that the mayor, we have video and photographic evidence of him violating the social distancing laws. And when I pointed out to that one cop that ripped down our sign, not the wall, he rips down the sign, and I give him the forensic evidence on a silver platter, and his response is, I wasn't there. Oh, well, then I guess the crime didn't happen. We'll just close this case and move on, right?
Yeah, just like murder. I wasn't there. Somebody assaulted you? Yeah, I didn't see it. Sorry. Can't take your complaint. You literally are handing him a picture of the crime occurring, and he's like, I wasn't there. Sorry. I got to take this phone call of my not ringing phone. Sure thing, bud. Sure. It's crazy. I cannot believe they are fencing off your trees. I mean, what a disgrace. We do have a pile of super chats though to get through.
Do your thing, then.
Yep. We've got one from John Singus, I think, $2 Canadian. I think they're referring to me and David. I brought this up at the beginning of the show. He says that we provide extra value, and he really means it because there are 3 exclamation points after his super chat. Yes, we've got one from BBBLSD, $6.99 Canadian. Remember when Jason Kenney sent propane to Quebec last winter? I do, but apparently Blanchette doesn't. Yes. He was on, I think it was Power and Politics with Vashi Capellos yesterday, and he said that Alberta should be thanking Quebec for buying our oil. Yes, we should be kissing his ass because he buys our incredibly reduced in price oil because Quebec won't let us get a pipeline built, and the left, primarily in Eastern Canada, says, no export pipelines for you guys so that you can get market value for your oil. We'll just make sure that it is trading at far less than what it should be, and then we'll buy it at a reduced price, and then we'll say, why don't you kiss our feet for it? It was just ridiculous.
And you know what's funny about that, Sheila, is, there's still oil? I thought Elizabeth May was proclaiming the end of oil, and joyously so. And all those hundreds of thousands of dollars and all those hundreds of thousands of workers, rather, and all those billions of dollars going into the Canadian GDP, forget about that.
I've got a real tough time listening to one of the MPs with the longest commute in Canada every single week telling me that oil is dead. I mean, she flies literally across the country twice a week to go to work. And she's telling us oil is dead. Well, then stay home and telecommute. But no, and she jumps on a private jet. She was on a private jet. So, I mean, I can't think of too many more things that are as carbon intensive as private aviation, and yet that's what she does because she also has to social distance.
I can think of something that's pretty carbon intensive when it comes to commuting, Sheila. Elizabeth May's Dodge Viper. I mean, what's she going to put in the tank of that monster when she has to do a Victoria Day parade? Dilithium crystals? Give me a break.
I know. She's just, she's one of the biggest hypocrites, and yet I don't understand why the Canadian media continues to treat her like she's the leader of the opposition. She's the leader of a 3-seat absolute fringe regional party. But they treat her as though she's this stalwart of parliamentary diplomacy and this big thinker on Canadian issues. She's a fringe kook. Certifiable. And
you know what? I'll tell you, Sheila, I thought her career-ending moment was some 5 years ago at the parliamentary press dinner where she was clearly drunk, and she should have used drunkenness as an excuse, but she claimed she wasn't drunk, when she serenaded Omar Khadr and called the Conservatives, well, I can't use the language she used, this great parliamentarian, because this is a family show. And imagine that, serenading a terrorist, an Islamist. Why is that part of the green agenda? How does that compute with you, Sheila?
Well, and she didn't say drunk or tipsy, which is probably a more acceptable excuse than the one she used, that she was high on NyQuil and sleep deprived.
Did she say that?
Yeah, it was cold medicine and sleep deprivation. So you're abusing medication, or misusing, I should say, medication, over-the-counter medication, and you're sleep deprived. I would say, I had one too many vodkas. Normal people would say, okay, that's a little bit more acceptable. But it's funny that didn't ruin her career, because to the press gallery and to the left in Canada, completely acceptable. To the normals of Canada, outrage, complete outrage. I mean, and that's sort of how the whole Omar Khadr issue falls down. The left love him. The press gallery loves him. He's child soldier. He's this, he's that. Normals completely outraged that this confessed war criminal has been not only enriched by the Canadian taxpayer, but then celebrated as a victim instead of recognizing the real victims of his admitted crimes.
Yeah.
We still have extra. It is. More super chats, though. We've got Razius TV. I hope I'm saying that right. £2 says, boom. Okay, great. We've got from Debauchy gives us $5 Canadian.
Thank you.
Why do you think Dr. Judy Mikovits and Plandemic is being heavily censored and calling her a radical far-right extremist on almost all social media? You know, I haven't seen Plandemic yet. A lot of people have sent it to me. I know that people are putting it up on YouTube and mirroring it on YouTube to try to skirt the YouTube algorithm that keeps pulling it down. And I know like non-political channels are now putting up this documentary, and it's short. I think it's like 25 minutes or something like that. Not because they even care about what's in it, or not even because they care about the coronavirus, but because they're so opposed to YouTube pulling down this documentary that is apparently very highly critical of China. And it's funny how you can mobilize people who normally aren't on your side and don't even care about what you're talking about the second you start telling them what they can watch and what they can listen to. We've got one from Lamont Boucherville, gives us $20 Canadian. We should rename British Columbia to just Columbia. There's nothing British about it. I you know what though, I kind of like the history of it all.
Sheila, I'm surprised that out of political correctness and historical revisionism, that the British part of Columbia hasn't been dropped. I mean, we're in a country now where we're pulling down statues of Sir John A. Macdonald and renaming pubs in the Prime Minister's name. And, you know, what does British mean? Oh, those were colonialists and invaders.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised in a generation or two that British Columbia gets a rebranding. And I'll put it out to our viewers. If you were a politically correct progressive, what would you rename beautiful British Columbia?
You know, on the opposite end of the spectrum, I'm the last thing from a politically correct progressive, and I'd be happy to go back to Rupert's Land. Thank you very much. We've got one from...
Was that Rupert the Bear?
No, Rupert's Land. David, read a book. Unjust Untrudeau gives us $5 Canadian. Hi, Sheila and David, you're great. Thank you very much. That's very kind. The PM had to leave his cottage yesterday, finally, and I think he looks better with a mask on. Do you agree? I saw a photo of him wearing a black mask, and I think it was on a tweet that Global News sent out yesterday. And it was so ridiculous looking that I took a screenshot of it because I could not believe that it was real. Maybe Mr. Producer can dig it up, or maybe not. Maybe I'll send it to him, but it's hard for me to do that and keep talking. But yeah, it looked actually Photoshopped, and I thought, could Global News be actually photoshopping a mask onto the Prime Minister? And for me, it was completely believable because it would be just another one of Justin Trudeau's behaviors that they would try to gloss over, that he would be out in public, being near people and not covering up his face. So let's just Photoshop one on him, like a half blackface. That's probably, I thought in my mind, well, maybe did they just take a blackface photo and just chop the head? Because there's enough of those of him out there.
And by the way, Sheila, it's worth noting, because I took in the event yesterday, it hasn't been posted on our site yet, but the reason why the Prime Minister had left this cottage was to go to Canadian Forces Base Trenton in Ontario. The remains of one of the servicemen had been returned to Canada, and there's a tradition in which the hearse, or in this case, multiple hearses, they haven't found the bodies of the other 5 servicemen in that helicopter crash that occurred late last month off the coast of Greece. But there's a tradition of lining the nickname of the 401, which is the Highway of Heroes, where you have Canadian patriots waving big Canadian flags and putting up signs of support. It's very moving. It's deeply touching. And what I know, I couldn't help but think about this, Sheila. Two things. One, law enforcement of various stripes and even Premier Doug Ford warned people not to go on these overpasses because of COVID-19 safety protocols. Well, you know what? I can tell you this, Sheila. Canadian patriotism is stronger than any made-in-China disease, and they disregarded that. And thank God not one bylaw officer or cop had the audacity to ticket these patriots. But secondly, you know, yeah, the Prime Minister, he has to be there. He should be there. He said all the right words, of course. But Sheila, do you think his heart is in it? I can't help but think back to 3 years ago in Edmonton, where you had that veteran put Trudeau on the spot about, you know, the lack of pension and benefit money. And Trudeau's snub was, well, you're asking for too much. Really? Really, Mr. Prime Minister, when we just had 6 service people give their lives in the call of duty, making the ultimate sacrifice, where are they the type of people that are asking too much? Are their grieving families asking too much? I think it's disgraceful. I don't think this man respects the military one iota of any of those great Canadians that lined the bridges over the 401 yesterday afternoon, Sheila.
Yeah, Justin Trudeau is really great at going through the motions and doing the performance art of caring about the military. But when the rubber meets the road, I mean, when you look at his actions, when you look at his words to, for example, to Brock Blashchuk in Edmonton, the wounded soldier in Edmonton, you know that it's fake, like so much of everything else that he does. And speaking of asking for more than someone is willing to give. What a good segue, Sheila. I gotta pat myself on the back for that, because apparently a moment of silence for the military was more than CBC was willing to give. And I think Mr. Producer has a clip. I think our friends at True North grabbed it down. CBC could not shut up for the moment of silence.
Wow.
During the repatriation of these fallen soldiers. And like you say, some bodies have not been recovered. The families were there, and they were caught on hot mics, chattering and laughing and talking about their day during the moment of silence. And if you watch carefully, you can see some Air Force members who are so overwhelmed with grief that they are holding each other up. They're just, you know, it's heartbreaking to watch. You can feel the grief that they're experiencing, and yet CBC could not shut their mouths for 60 seconds. Very Trudeau of them, actually. Mr. Producer,
I didn't know that,
have
Sheila.
That? Watch.
Well, another career highlight for the Classless Broadcasting Corporation. No, Sheila, if I'm covering the next Queen's Park protest on Saturday, and I think I will be, and I see that CBC reporter who was afraid and frightened of my hair, which we covered on Tuesday. I'll ask her what she thinks of that. Of course, she'll have no opinion as she runs backwards into Queen's Park Crescent. So that is a disgrace, absolute disgrace. And good for True North to grab that clip before it vanishes into the ether forever.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody else talking about it. But yeah, just to see those 5 hearses and to see, those members of the Canadian military, people who are willing to die for us, overwhelmed with grief so much that they're holding each other up as they walk. And CBC's talking about how they have to go to the bathroom. It turns my stomach. And it's everything. It's why we exist, David. It's, as long as they behave like that, you and I are always going to have a job, because you and I are advocates for the Canadian military. We're advocates for people who are appalled when they see CBC not caring about our military. So I suppose thanks, ghouls at the CBC, because I appreciate the job security.
Yeah, but Sheila, if I may quickly add, the converse of that is they will always have a job. They are accountable only to themselves. It doesn't matter if they lose money. It doesn't matter if their ratings go through the floor in terms of nobody watching their shows. They are taxpayer funded by the tune of 1.5, 1.6 billion per year.
Yeah.
So they have this giant safety net. They can, be fast and loose with the truth. They can have a political agenda, and nothing will happen because they are the state-sanctioned broadcasting corporation currently of the Justin Trudeau Liberal Party.
$1.5 billion, and CBC couldn't even buy themselves some class. Anyway, we have to keep going through all these super chats. Proud Boys Calgary gives us $2.79. New name, COVID 1984. We have bantied that name around in the staff meetings. And CCP must be destroyed. Daily reminder. Yes, thank you. We've got one from Moonlight for $6.99 Canadian. Thank you, everyone at Rebel. You guys rock. Thank you. That's very kind. Trudeau needs to be kicked from office and banned from Canada. I don't know how he got reelected after all. Well, no, sorry. Let me walk that back. I know exactly how he got reelected after all of his mistakes, but that's the problem here. There are clearly two Canadas at play here. There's one in Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, and there's one everywhere else. And the one everywhere else seems to care about ethics and corruption and lies and the mistreatment of our military. And the one in those three big voting blocks, they don't really seem to care.
Yeah, and how sad is it that, if you can believe the current polling, Sheila, that if an election were held today, he's getting a majority. I think that speaks very tragically of two things. People either not engaged in the political process, or they have been brainwashed by the media party. And the current dumpster fire with the Conservative Party of Canada in terms of who is our Stephen Harper, who is our champion in waiting. I don't see anyone.
No. I mean, I suppose Jason Kenney is, but he's in Alberta. I mean, I wonder if he has federal aspirations, but he's too new to the job here in Alberta to just walk away and continue on to federal politics. I think he's probably the man for the job, federally speaking. But, I mean, how do you walk away after not even serving one term here to save the country from Justin Trudeau? I don't know. But
despite him being so new, if he were to do so, Dave, to quote the Lord Humongous from the 1982 film The Road Warrior, there's been too much pain, too much suffering. Just walk away, Jason Kenney. Walk away and become the federal leader. I was paraphrasing the Lord Humongous there, of course, but, yes, walk away and become our champion, please.
That's the thing, though. Jason Kenney, he was Stephen Harper's fixer. Stephen Harper would put him in portfolios that were a wreck, and Jason Kenney would fix it. And so that's what he's doing in Alberta, and that's what he could do federally if he took over the Conservative Party of Canada. And he's got a strong base among immigrants. So, I mean, I think he's the man for the job to save the Conservative Party of Canada from itself. But would he walk away from Canada or from Alberta in our time of need? I don't know. I don't know. But he's the guy. Sheila, I think he's the guy you need.
Mr. Producer just barked in my ear, super chat, and I don't think he's talking about our discourse. I think he wants you to read.
There's so many. There's so many. There's so many because we have the best, most generous viewers, and you guys are doing a great job keeping me and David's winning streak over Ezra Levant strong. Let's keep it going. We've got one from Proud Boys Calgary, 279. Sheila, they'd be playing No Fences by Garth Brooks. Yeah, referring to the Alberta boys pulling down fences in Toronto. Yeah. We've got one from Bill DeBurger. Sends us $5 Canadian. Thanks for the great news coverage. You are one of the few news organizations left. Yeah, we do news. We do news that people care about. We do commentary. I don't have a problem with us mixing it because we're honest about it. Yep. CBC does commentary, left-wing commentary, masquerading as news, and they make us pay for it. And it's not what we do. We've got one from Ammo, C9M. $2 Canadian, says guns investigate Project Plowshare and tax dollars. I will. That's on my list of things to Google as soon as I get off the air. We've got one from Mystery Fan, gives us $10 Canadian. I don't see a super chat, but thank you for the generous super chat or the generous donation there. We've got one from Travis Coulson, $6.99. Represent Orillia, Ontario. If you guys start a movement to get our pickup trucks to tear down that fence, I'll be there. Stop the madness. That fence drives me crazy because they are protecting those cherry trees more than they are protecting our border. Like, I think the fencing and security is higher there than at Roxham Road. Correct me if I'm wrong, David, you've been there.
Oh, no, 100% it's more intense, the security there, Sheila. And, when that Hyde Park ban went into effect, it was a cause célèbre. There was a story of, can you believe it? Somebody snuck into the park, they breached the wall, and they climbed a tree. Well, Mayor Tory, it was like calling all cars. Is the Justice League of America and the Avengers available? Who is this person that climbed that cherry blossom tree? So if somebody in a pickup truck started, or many people in trucks started clearing those, fences and barricades away, Sheila, I think the mayor would send in the SWAT team, to be quite frank.
Oh, yeah, he'd crack down on those people worse than he cracks down on gang violence. You wanted to, all of a sudden, we'd see a reemergence of the policy of using carding as police intelligence tools if people started climbing fences and taking down fences. We've got one from Brown Book, gives us $20 Canadian. I don't see a super chat, but that is incredibly generous. Thank you very much. We've got one from Kim Webster, $20.99, says, keep up the great work, seek truth. We definitely will. Thank you. We've got one from Jose Sanzana. I was listening to Trudeau's morning coffee announcements. What a great way to put it. We call it the Trudeau Morning Show. Which appeared like he had a hangover. Every single day, right?
It must have been Gatorade. Sheila, it must have been being around all those guns at CFB Trenton, for the ceremony yesterday. He's still, he was rattled. He's still recovering from that traumatic event of all that militarism on display.
Yeah, he does look like he just chugged a Gatorade and ate some bacon and eggs before he goes out. Like, he does look genuinely rough. And of course, none of us have had a haircut. We're all not looking our best self. I know. What did I call you the other day? I said you look like a chia head of Rex Murphy.
And I think I responded, yes, hair by Chia Pet, body by Tim Hortons these days.
No, you do have that, like, Rex Murphy, what is it? The new fro. Newfie fro. Anyways, we got to get through this super chat. The comments on his speech was that the Americans wish that he was their president. Canada agrees. Take him. Yeah. It's funny because the American left would love him, but there's this whole middle part of the country that doesn't vote Democrat, and they don't want him. It's funny how the American left will take a Canadian laughing stock, like somebody that everybody serious in the real world seems to be poking fun of, and they're like, yeah, that's the guy for us. But they were willing to vote for Hillary Clinton, so there's no accounting for taste. We've got one from Dan Brannigan for $5. Says, what happened to the two Michaels in China? Yeah, we haven't had proof of life from those two in quite some time. One of them was allowed to call his ailing father. I think it's nearly 2 months ago, and that's the last time we even heard from them. Are they even still alive? Are they sick with the coronavirus? China said, we're giving them more gruel food, but I mean, how great is the food in a Chinese prison when you're a political prisoner to help them combat the coronavirus? Okay, great. So you're not starving them to death, but what about sunlight? What about letting them go? What about letting them go back?
I can just imagine. I can just imagine that food. Here's another heaping helping of cream of vampire bat soup. I fear for these two Michaels, Sheila. It's been more than 500 days that they've been incarcerated, and the conditions of the incarceration mean that the light in their cells never goes out. I seriously feel, I think if I had to live through that, I don't think I'd ever be the same. I'd be a damaged human being, or in the eyes of some people, more damaged than I am. But I really think that enduring those prison conditions, having the lights on all the time, having the quality of food, which must be absolutely ghastly, I don't know how you come out of that institution the same person as when you went in.
Well, and where's the left? The left in Canada are advocating for our prisons to be dumped out to save the prisoners from the coronavirus.
Yeah.
I think in Ontario alone, you guys have released some 25% of the prisoners from your jails. I think they're awaiting trial or awaiting sentencing. So that's not great. But where are those people saying, okay, these two are in the hot zone. Why isn't the Canadian government trying to get them home? At least because of the coronavirus, and it's utter silence. It's utter silence. You see Justin Ling, freelancer, getting repeated questions to the Prime Minister during Trudeau's morning show, and all he ever asks about, apparently, is releasing Canadian prisoners. Where's the questions about these two men? They're political prisoners. They've done nothing wrong.
And make sure when you release those prisoners, you do it in a bilingual fashion.
Right. If I were a francophone, I would be genuinely insulted because everybody thinks I'm stupid. That's what I would. You know what I mean? We've got one from Cronus Titan, gives us $10 Canadian. Hey Sheila, if you ever need a truck to haul some stuff in the Edmonton area, send a message. I'm sure we can round up a few lifters to help. Cheers. I see what you're getting at there. We've got one from 160 199 Canadian. I love your story about the fenced off trees. More great Corona hoax coverage on the Ron Paul Liberty Report. You know what? I have not tuned into anything from Ron Paul in quite some time. And I should. I find him very entertaining. We've got one from Abu Baker Alpuff Daddy. Regular viewer, regular donor. Thank you very much. Gives us $25 Canadian. Morning, Menzoid and Gunny. Hypothetical question. If you won the Masters Gold Tournament and then got to choose the menu for the victory dinner, what food would you treat us rebels at the banquet? David, you go first.
Was that the Masters Golf Tournament?
I think so.
Is that what it meant? Okay. Oh, all right. Well, I would, it would be incredibly Alberta beef heavy, I think. We have to do something to show a little love to our cousins in Alberta. And just the fact that the militant vegans would be so offended and try to do a protest like they did a couple of years ago outside of Antler Restaurant in Toronto, and only making Antler a restaurant now, well, at least during normal times, you need to get a reservation to get a seat. So I think that's what would be needed. Fly in some of the best Alberta beef, perhaps the best beef in the world, Sheila. Who knows? Yep. I know the Japanese love to brag about their Kobe beef, but Alberta beef, when I lived in the province, it was fantastic. So that's what I would go for, and certainly that industry too needs a little helping hand, given what's been happening at the Cargill plant that our colleague Kian Bexley covered too.
Yeah. For me, it would be Alberta beef. I'd also show some love to the pork producers. And for the reasons that you've mentioned, right now there are some 96,000 hogs that are going to be culled and these are market-ready hogs. They're going to be culled because there's no processing capacity for them. So the farmers are losing money, and basically now they have to take their cash crop, these hogs, and just dispose of them.
Wait a minute. No, I don't understand that. Well, no, sir, and I'm not making a joke, but I mean, I've never been a hog farmer, but like they're ready for slaughter, you're saying.
Yeah.
Can't they wait? Can't they even fatten them up more? I mean, like, why would you have to slaughter them for no reason right now?
There comes a point at which you end up losing money keeping these hogs on the farm. So you have to feed them. And so that's what's happening right now. And
that's tragic.
Yeah. And I mean, this is food that needs to go to, I mean, culling hogs that are market ready, what that does is the farmers are left with no choice. They're losing money. And farmers, beef farmers, meat producers, with the exclusion of chickens and poultry, they're price takers. They're not price setters. They have to take the market price for their product. For all intents and purposes, they buy at retail and sell at wholesale. It's not a money-making proposition often to be a farmer. But they have these 96,000 hogs. There's 7 processing plants in the country that are on some form of coronavirus shutdown, and they can't get to market. Farmers are losing money. This is food that, if it were out there, it would be driving down the price of meat at retail because it needs to be in the marketplace. But they have to cull these hogs, and at the end of the day, it's going to drive up the price at retail to the consumer because these hogs are not, in the retail food supply chain. And there are, I think it's about 100,000 market-ready beef cattle sitting in feedlots, costing feedlot operators money because they've bought them from the farmer at auction, and now they have to feed them and they can't process them because of these coronavirus shutdowns. And again, that's going to drive the cost up in retail because the supply chain isn't there. And so that's a long way of me answering your question, Abu Baker Al Puff Daddy. It would be very heavy in meat and also very heavy in potatoes because that's another cash crop that's being hit hard right now because the restaurants aren't open and Canadians incidentally eat a lot of fries. And so the potato farmers of Alberta, so the southern part of the province, Lethbridge, they're hit pretty hard. They're sitting on a lot of potatoes that they can't move. So it would be a very old-fashioned dinner: meat, potatoes, maybe some Tabor corn.
And Sheila, if I can ask you a question, I wonder, what do you think about those Looney Tune animal rights activists in your neck of the woods? Do you think they'll trespass on farmers' property and immerse themselves in the pig pens to say, "Thou shalt not slaughter these hogs," like they did at that turkey farm? And would the RCMP response be, we're not going to press charges, but give them 5 hogs to go away and we'll call it a day?
If they gave them 5 hogs to take with them, that would sure cure them of their animal rights activism pretty darn quick because there are few animals as horrible as hogs. Excuse me. Did you know that, no offense to the hog farmers out there, but I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. Did you know that Hutterite farm that was hit by those animal rights activists, they were hit again, hey? They had all their barns along the highway vandalized on the Easter weekend with profanity. These are devout Christian Anabaptists. And on the Easter long weekend, the animal rights activists came back and just splattered the length of their turkey barns, facing the highway with absolute profanity. And so they had to go out on their Easter weekend and clean that up. When they should have been worshiping the Lord, they're out there cleaning up profanity because they didn't want the people on the highway to have to read it. I mean, That's just how gross these animal rights activists are. The more they do stuff like that, the more they turn people off their cause.
Yeah, you're right.
And look, I'm one of those people who says, eat whatever you want, live your best life. And that means you want to be a vegetarian, you want to be a vegan, whatever, stay off my farm. That's all. That's all I ask. We've still got more super chats, and thank you for that great question. David Anderson gives us $5 Canadian. I hope everyone who gets a distancing ticket goes to court to fight it. By the way, you folks should talk to the CCFR re their charter challenge to the gun ban. You know, I wrote that story up yesterday and we published it just as a written story on the website. And it was one of our most popular things on the website yesterday. It was driving a lot of traffic to the website because people really want to fight back about this. And I know Michelle Rempel's parliamentary petition about the gun ban. It's over 100,000 signatures in 24 hours. And I think at one point it crashed the government petition website. We've got Real Men Fish for $5 Canadian. God, I miss Ralph Klein. Preach it. We've got one from Observer Dude, £5. I've seen leftists on Facebook say that Rebel Media is far right and should be banned from all public platforms. These are leftists who never watch us. I don't think I'm not far right. I'm pro-Israel. I'm pro-immigration, skilled immigration. I'm pro-refugee, as in let's take the persecuted. I'm not an ethnic nationalist. I'm a civic nationalist in that I think we should be taking people whose values fit our own of Western civilization. Like I don't understand where people get this far right idea, except that it gets repeated by people who want us censored. And then there's a lot of lazy people playing telephone along the way who never bother to go back to the source and say, well, what is Sheila saying? What is David actually saying about immigration and refugees and all these things that they don't want us to talk about? What are they actually saying? They never go back to the source and hear for themselves our actual opinions that are published widely on the internet every single day.
Yeah, you know, Sheila, and I mean, this really grinds my gears when I get that kind of accusation. I was brought up by my grandparents. My grandfather spent more than 5 years of his life fighting the Nazis in the Second World War. He went into service with hair like this color, and he came back to Scotland with snow white hair. And like you said, I'm a supporter of Israel. My wife is a South African Jew. I can't see the connection where we're part of some sort of racist cabal that must be banned. But, you know, that's the way the left rolls these days, Sheila. They're all about diversity, but they're not about a diversity of opinions. And if you disagree with them, they'll come up with a very nasty slur like you are a Nazi or a white supremacist. They can never back up those slurs with, what's that little thing called again? Evidence. And they want us sidelined forever. It is despicable. And you know, it's kind of funny too, Sheila, this ties into, you know, this enhanced craving for censorship, ties into I heard a morning show host in Toronto, of course it would be in Toronto, who was smugly saying that, you know, given the coronavirus and given all the bailouts and the, you know, what we're getting from the various levels of governance, well, we're all socialists now. No, first of all, this wasn't a failure of capitalism, as he was inferring. This was something inflicted upon the world by a communist dictatorship who we now know was lying about this disease and could have curtailed it within its own borders had they been proactive. It's going to be capitalism that gets us out of this mess once things are ever returned to normal. And by the way, if we're all socialists now, how do you like socialism, folks? How do you like lining up for hours to buy your groceries? How do you like empty shelves? How do you like the fast food restaurant that doesn't have hamburger meat anymore? Oh, that is fantastic. And here's, you know, the cherry on the sundae. Anyone saying anything nasty about the Wuhan virus, they should be censored and called racist. This is absolutely despicable. If you folks on the left are enjoying this kind of socialism, and by the way, even with the Wuhan virus pandemic at its peak that we're going through right now, Sheila, it's still miles better to be here than in Venezuela, for example, right? But if that's your idea of a utopia, wow, you are welcome to it. I can't wait until capitalism gets us back to normal.
Yeah, a lot of the hurt we're feeling is because the government was in control. And they took control. They decided that your business was either essential or non-essential. They controlled what you could sell, when you could sell it, and how many people you could have in your store. So if you're hurting right now because the government decided your business is non-essential, welcome to communism. That's the hurt, is from government control. We have so many super chats, and we still have to get to that one lady from yesterday who gave us the super chat. We never got around to her video. And look, we keep our word around here. If you wrote it in a super chat, we're going to deal with it. So let's roll through these super chats, and then we'll get to that lady, because we have 6 minutes left in the show. Okay. Yeah. We've got one from
get
Brown.
to half the things on this list.
We never do. We've got one from Brown Book for $10 Canadian. Punitive damages here should be asked for by Rebel and given to charities that did not want to sign on for liberal ideologies. I think I know what you're talking about. The values attestation, the charities themselves are already engaged in a lawsuit against the government. And I think the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms is handling that for them. So take a mosey over to their website, and you can see everything that they're doing and help them support, or give them some support in that fight. We've got one from Bill Howie, gives us $5 Canadian. Leslyn Lewis could win PM because she would destroy the go-to lib CPC is racist anti-woman narrative, and she's in Toronto and smarter than Justin. What do you think? I like Leslyn Lewis. She's an unashamed Christian. She wears it on her sleeve. And yeah, she does send an arrow right through the heart of the liberal narrative that the conservatives are racist, anti-woman, and she's got such a great story. She came with nothing, and she came up with nothing, built a life for herself, and now she wants to be the prime minister. It's perfect.
And Sheila, just to let our viewers know, I believe Ezra is interviewing her tomorrow. So if you want to see more, please tune in for that.
She's great. She's great. And she's not scared of getting some rebel stink on her, which is good. We've got one from Abu Baker Al Puff Daddy, $5 Canadian, Gunny and Menzoid. Any update on the Lethbridge stormtrooper? The actions of the police officers were disgraceful. I don't have an update to give you. But what I can tell you is that if the cops pushed me down while I was on the job and bloodied my nose, my boss would rain hell down on them. There would be 20 lawyers waiting to go after the cops for what they did to me. That's the kind of company I work for. And I'm pretty upset that that's not the kind of company that Little Miss Stormtrooper works for.
Well, the most current update I can tell you is that the Lethbridge Police Service is no longer commenting publicly on this, but they have launched an investigation into those officers' behavior. Alas, it is the Lethbridge Police Service investigating the Lethbridge Police Service. I'm sure they'll call it as it is.
Yeah, I saw that William Shatner even weighed in and was critical of the Lethbridge Police. So when when Captain Kirk is mad at you, and when we've got the Trekkies defending the Star Wars people, that's when the Lethbridge Police have really screwed up.
Wow.
Yeah. Moonlight gives us $6.99 Canadian. Thanks everyone at Rebel and wishing your families well-being. Thank you very much. And a special thanks to Justin at Rebel for your hard work behind the cameras. Yes, he is truly the unsung heroes of all of the staff, but in particular on these live streams, because we're calling for stuff and he just digs it up and he's sending me these super chats. He's monitoring everything. Justin really is the unsung hero of these live streams.
Who did that super chat come from?
Justin's mom. Okay, we've got one from Yep. We've got one from Proud Boys Calgary, $2.79 Canadian, says everyone do bacon wrapped Alberta beef. You're talking now, Justin. We've got one from John Veldkamp. David, shut up and listen. John Veldkamp gives us $100 Canadian and not even a super chat. John, thank you very much. It's so generous. Thank you very much. And yeah, we're going to beat Ezra again today. Theo, local loaner, gives us £5. This question is for David. Why do people call the police on you? Why do people call the police on you when you ask them simple questions? Well, the hair, I would suggest, lately. Frightening. But David, why do you think?
Again, I think it is the progressive liberal narrative right now, Sheila, that the practice of journalism is odious if you're not following the media party line, and therefore you have to be shut down. And if no comment doesn't do it, well then let's see what a call to 911 does. That's the way we're rolling in Canada increasingly. I'm never threatening to anyone. I'm never harassing anyone. I'm just asking questions. I'm just trying to practice journalism, but some people take offense even at the questions I'm asking because it's off script, if you will, and that's why, sir.
Yeah, I think there's a whole segment of the population who think that not thinking like them is a crime.
Yeah.
We've got one from Brent Chapman for $2, no super chat. Denny Paymont, $3, no super chat, thank you. MVP, $4, we're getting a small taste of socialism, no thanks, amen. We've got one from Footy Print, gives us $2 Canadian. Where's our Canadian orange man to save us? You know, I thought Doug Ford would be that guy, and he is not that guy right now. We've got one from Brent Chapman, gives us $2 Canadian, says Mark Carney has a plan, want to see it. You know, I was talking on my paywalled show, The Gun Show, with Michelle Sterling from Friends of Science about that exact topic the other day, and it's only $8 a month if you subscribe at Rebel News Plus to get access to all of our paywalled shows, David, mine, and Ezra's nightly show. So, I mean, I think it's worth the money. I know that we're over time, but Justin, in studio, do you think it is okay if we show that video that our viewer sent us the other day? Her name was Guided Angel, and she wanted us to talk about this yesterday, and we made a promise, so let's do it.
Let's do it.
Non-essential travel? What's that? When you make the rules, that's not even a category. Just ask Justin Trudeau, the preachy Prime Minister of Canada. On April 12th, Trudeau released a video commanding Canadians to stay in their homes for Easter. It's what Jesus would do, he declared.
So as we reflect on Jesus' message of love and compassion, let's think about our healthcare workers and essential service workers who are on the front lines every day. Let's put into practice what it truly means to love our neighbors as ourselves by making sacrifices to protect their health. Let's stay home for them.
That's the kind of quarantine Jesus endorses. Love means staying home. For you, not for them. Not long after recording the video you just saw, Trudeau left the capital and traveled all the way to Quebec to visit his family at their lake house, just like you'd want to do on Easter, if you were allowed to do that, but you're not allowed, so stop complaining. You might also want to get your hair cut.
Wow, what would Jesus have done? I'm surprised he didn't also throw in what would Muhammad and Buddha have done. But wow, I love Tucker Carlson, Sheila.
So good.
And that he really nailed that. You will never see coverage like that on the CBC.
No, but there's a reason why Fox is the most watched cable news channel in the world. And it's because they will say stuff like that. They will say things you won't hear on other networks. So that's why people tune in. I just love the idea that Justin Trudeau's version of Catholic theology is that Jesus wants you to call the cops on your neighbors if they have a barbecue. Like, I missed that in catechism. I didn't get it.
Yeah. Oh, golly. So I think, is that all our super chats, Sheila? We took care of that missing piece from Guided Angel from yesterday. So,
I think
wow.
that's it.
I think this was the fastest hour. It might be a record in terms of what Sheila and I have brought in terms of the do-re-mi, and we really appreciate that, folks. We don't get those government subsidies, and nor would we accept it if offered. So without further ado, we're signing off right now. We're over time, and in the meantime, stay safe.